Welcome back to another blazing edition of Hot Topics, the podcast powered by the Suncoast Tampa Living Network, where we dig into the ideas, innovations, and real life experiences shaping business, leadership, and the future of our industry. I'm your host, Quan Rimmer, and today's topic is one that thousands of people across Tampa Bay are wrestling with right now. Should you keep renting, or is it finally time to buy a home? With rising rents, changing interest rates, and a competitive housing market, many consumers are stuck trying to answer one big question. Is owning a home still the smarter move? Today, we are bringing in two industry experts who work on the front lines helping buyers make that decision every day. They understand the numbers, the financial strategies, and the real world situations people face when deciding whether to rent or buy. And we're recording live from the Fabre Frameworks studio. Fabre Frameworks, your one-stop shop for real estate photography that help listings shine. Visit FabreFrameworks.com to elevate your next listing. And now, a branch manager, portfolio loan specialist who has built a reputation for helping borrowers find mortgage solutions that traditional banks often cannot offer. For buyers who are self-employed, rebuilding credit, investors, or navigating non-traditional income, he specializes in creating custom lending strategies using Van Dyke's in-house portfolio lending platform, allowing loans to be structured around real-life financial situations. And when it comes to performance, the results speak for themselves. He has been ranked in the top 1% of mortgage originators nationwide since 2011. And in 2018, he became the first member of his branch to earn Van Dyke's President's Club honor. That combination of elite production, creative lending solutions, and deep Tampa market knowledge makes him a powerful resource for buyers trying to break out of the rental cycle, entering the heat with solutions that will help real people become homeowners. Please welcome Sean Miller of Van Dyke Mortgage.
I got to put you on my website.
I'm telling you.
That's a good video right there. Yeah.
Take that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marketing department, if you're listening.
Yes. And we have a senior vice president of sales at EMM Loans, bringing more than 25 years of mortgage industry experience to the table. Throughout his career, he has built and coached high-performing mortgage teams, developed growth strategies for loan officers, and worked closely with realtors and referral partners to navigate shifting housing markets. He is known for his leadership, transparency, and commitment to helping both professionals and consumers understand the mortgage process clearly. His ability to break down complex topics like market cycles, equity strategies, financing options into clear, practical guidance has helped countless buyers make confident decisions about home ownership. Entering the heat with more than 2 decades of mortgage leadership and a passion for helping buyers make smarter financial decisions. Please welcome Scott Pendleton of EMM Loans.
I'm gonna start taking you everywhere, man.
Listen.
He always makes me smile.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad. Well, let's jump right into it, gentlemen. Let's start with the bigger picture. In the market today, what factors are driving the rent versus buy decision?
Rates, prices, affordability, and the primary drivers, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, we're in an interesting market right now, specifically here in the Tampa Bay area. We've got home prices are kind of going up, but now we've got a lot of inventory sitting on the market, which I think is creating a tremendous amount of opportunity for buyers that are ready. Rates are definitely up compared to the COVID years. I think a lot of younger people got spoiled by what they saw were some incredibly low interest rates, sub 3% interest rates.
And older people.
Yeah. Listen, I'm one of those people. I have a 2.25% interest rate. It's hard to get, it's hard to walk away from that.
I say the good old days.
Yeah. We'll probably never see those rates again. But the reality is, what we have to look at is now, right? We can't live in the past. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know where we're at today. So I think rates today are relatively affordable. But rent prices are going up, and if you're renting right now, they're probably going up a couple $100 a year. So there's a lot of factors that are driving the market.
Well, many renters believe buying is out of reach. So from what you're seeing, how true is that perception?
I mean, it depends. It depends on your income levels. Like for people that don't make as much income, like living in the Tampa Bay area may not be affordable for them to do it.
Yeah.
They may need to migrate over to Polk County where you can get some lower prices. Hernando County, Citrus County, and depending on where their job's located at, if they're working remotely, then, if they need to move further away, it's not as big of a deal. If they're working at, in downtown Tampa and they need to go to, Hernando County, that might be different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, home prices are up. There's no doubt about it. Affordability in the state of Florida has changed over the decades. Homeowners insurance is more expensive. We had a couple hurricanes in the last 2 years. Property taxes have gone up. If you're moving into this area from another state, affordability is definitely a challenge. So the reality is that's why there's mortgage professionals like Sean and I out there to help you put the numbers together so you can determine if you can afford the payment for the homes you're looking at in the price range you're looking at. And I think that's where people need to focus more of their energy on the payment, personally.
Yeah. For the first year ever, actually, my homeowner insurance went down for the first time.
Good for you.
And I've never said that ever before. So yes, insurance costs were rising. However, I just got my renewal and it went down from $2,900 to $1,800.
Yeah, let me know who that company was.
There's a company called Frontline took reductions. One of the few took reductions in their homeowner insurance premiums.
Wow.
And my roof was replaced 4 years ago. So yes, I kept saying increasing insurance costs. However, I have mentioned that Frontline has some decreases in their premiums, which is nice.
I'll be calling them this afternoon.
There you go. Yeah, nothing ever gets cheaper.
Nothing. Not in homeownership.
Are there ever any situations where renting actually makes more sense than buying?
I mean, I think absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only going to be there for a short period of time, renting a year, 2 years, 3 years, a short period of time, I think renting makes the most sense. Me personally, when I moved to Florida from Ohio, I wanted to live here and rent before I bought. Now, that isn't the case for all my clients. Some clients do buy before they move, and they prefer to do that because they hate moving. I don't like moving either, by the way.
Yeah.
But I wanted to live in the area before I made a decision to buy.
Which I think is great advice. If you're moving to the area for work and you don't think it's going to be long term, then I think renting is an absolutely phenomenal decision. If you're moving into an area you're not familiar with, and I can give you a real life example. So my wife and I moved to Clearwater Beach. We're on Sand Key, across the street from the beach on the Intercoastal, a little over 5 years ago. Never lived on the beach, vacationed on the beach, lived in Tampa proper, the West Chase area for many years. My wife does not like living at the beach. She doesn't like it a little bit. So we're in a situation now where my daughter's close, my granddaughter's close, and we've got to make a decision in the very near future. I'm kind of waiting to see what the market does this summer, but I may be putting my home on the market. And before I buy another home, I'm probably going to rent for a while because I want my wife to convince me that this is where she wants to live before I buy another house.
Yeah.
So there's real life scenarios that you have to work through, and sometimes being a renter is going to be a better scenario.
I remember right before I got married, I was renting in downtown St. Pete. My wife was renting in downtown Tampa. We both said we would never live in the suburbs, and now we live in West Chase.
There you go.
So we live in the suburbs.
Yep.
So
I miss the West Chase area. I loved it.
Nice. All right, so tell me, what are some myths people still believe about home ownership that simply are not true anymore?
Well, a financial advisor I work with told all his clients that they had to have 20% down, and they should do a 15-year fixed. And I told him, I was like, well, just so you know, if I told all my clients that, I would probably have about 98% less clients.
Yeah.
If they only did 15-year terms and 20% down. So you can do 3% down on conventional loans if you haven't in the last 3 years. If you're a veteran or a VA buyer, military person, you can do 0 down. There's rural housing loans, which was 0 down. So there's down payment assistance programs. So is it ideal to do like a short-term loan to save money and interest? Absolutely. Would that be what Dave Ramsey would tell you to do? Absolutely. But I wouldn't say that the lion's share of people do 15-year fixed loans.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, I always advise my clients to really be careful with the numbers, right? As especially as we get a little bit older, and you're looking at maybe retiring. Having a 15-year fixed mortgage sounds really good and paying off that mortgage quickly. But if you are all of a sudden on a fixed income, that large mortgage payment could be a detriment. You can always pay a 30-year mortgage in 15 years. Once you have a 15-year mortgage, the only way you're getting out of that is refinancing or selling the property. So,
Yeah, good point. And then you're paying closing costs to refinance.
right. So, I would, and I would say the numbers are in the 98 to 99% range of people do a 30-year fixed mortgage, for conventional financing over a 15. There are always situations, depending on your financial situation, where a 15 is a good fit. But, the little bit you get in a reduction in interest rates usually isn't worth it, in my opinion. And, I agree. I think one of the biggest myths out there is people do think you need 20% down to buy a home, and that is obviously the furthest.
And PMI, if you don't put 20% down, PMI, private mortgage insurance, it's super cheap.
It's not bad. No,
yeah,
it's not
it's very inexpensive. And if you got good credit scores, very inexpensive, very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you can you're talking about affordability. I'll strategize with my clients. Hey, listen, instead of putting 20% down, how about you pay your car loan off that you owe 25 grand on, and you have a $900 car payment on, versus putting an extra 25 grand down on the house and lowering your monthly payment $180 a month.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Smart.
Strategizing, help them figure out ways just to, prices are more expensive. Rates are more expensive than what they were several years ago. Rates are better now than what they were in end of 2022,
True.
2023, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a nice window up until we had the Iran strikes last Monday. We've seen a little bit of uptick with the rates.
Very, very volatile market right now.
Every day. So we had a very nice window for a long period of time. So hopefully that will get all settled out sooner than later.
I think it's going to take a little bit longer than we anticipate, but we'll see.
Yes. When someone says, I'm going to just wait for the rates to drop, what does that conversation usually look like from your side of the table?
I say, what if they don't?
Yeah. What if they go up?
Yeah, like they did the last couple
2 days.
Weeks. Yeah, last 10 days. So you don't know. Outside of, when did you get into business?
I've been in a little over 25 years, so early 90s.
Okay, so I've been since 2003, and I tell people, I was like, listen, outside of when the Federal Reserve was buying the mortgage-backed securities from 2008 to March of 2022, rates are basically where they were. I did new home sales in 01, 02, and then I had my mortgage license since then. So from 01 to 08, rates were in that high 5s to low 7s range.
Yeah.
And then from March of 2022, when they stopped buying the mortgage-backed securities, we've been in that mid to high 5s to low 7s range.
Yeah.
So, we're right in that area.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you were saying, people thinking rates are going to go back down to 2 or 3%. I mean, do I hope that happens? I mean, selfishly, yes. I don't know if that's best for the United States of America to be printing paper like that again.
Right.
But, I think best case scenario, you get rates maybe in low 5s, maybe on a 30-year term.
Yeah,
maybe.
well, I mean, think about this too. You know this, and maybe a lot of people out there don't realize. Government pricing is usually much more aggressive than conventional loans, surprisingly. So, if we could get conventional loans in the mid 5s, which are very healthy interest rates, you're probably looking at FHA and VA loans in the 4% range. The 4.75 range potentially. So very affordable interest rates, and I think we're not far off from that right now. So rate shouldn't be a barrier of entry for you. Affordability is really where you need to focus in payment, and you always have an opportunity to refinance, right? We've seen some of those opportunities the last month or two. I've had some people that they bought in the 7% range. And we've been able to refinance some of those people into the low 6s, saving them $300-400 a month in monthly payment, right? But one thing they didn't miss out on was all that equity. They've been earning equity for the last couple of years. Now they've got that equity and the lower interest rate. So,
nice. As we talk about the money, how should people really compare the cost of renting versus buying?
I would say mathematics,
It's a math equation at the end of the day.
Yeah. Adding up, here's how much I'm going to have to pay in rent for the next 12 months. Multiply that times, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 year, 5 years. Here's how much it's going to cost to own. I mean, with owning, it's more of a fixed cost per se, because your insurance costs don't vary that much usually from year to year. your real estate taxes after you're in the home and your homestead exemption is in effect. You're not going to see your taxes adjust much. As you were saying with rent, you're going to see that go up maybe $100-$200 per year. And at the end of the 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that money is gone.
Gone, right?
Versus, you are in a home, you gain appreciation, typically,
Hopefully.
hopefully.
Historically.
Historically.
Right? There have been a few years where it's been flat. I think it's a little flat right now in certain markets in the Tampa Bay area. But still, homeownership should be a long-term vision, right? If you have a short-term vision, going back to what we talked about earlier, maybe it's a better time to rent. But for a long-term vision, homeownership should be, what you're looking for. The numbers don't lie. The average net wealth of a homeowner is around 40 times greater than that of a renter. So I think the average net worth of a renter is around $10,000, where the average net worth of a homeowner is somewhere between $350,000 to $400,000. So when you own a home, you gain equity typically over time, and historically that is proven to be accurate. You're going to be better off.
And eventually, hopefully, that loan gets paid off.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, and then you only have your homeowner insurance and real estate taxes.
Yep.
So
And then you get old enough, you could do a reverse mortgage and not even make a payment and have all that money.
Got one of those going right now.
Yeah.
Not for me. But
You're not that old yet.
not yet. Getting there.
How important is building equity in today's market?
I think it's crucial. Listen, this country, most of the wealth in this country has been built around real estate, home ownership. Most people traditionally buy a starter home, build up equity, take that money, put it down on their next home, right? They're building that equity. It's how most people in this country build wealth. So I think it's extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, I have some clients that they just invest in real estate, gold, and silver. I have other clients that buy one house and invest in the stock market.
Yeah.
There isn't like a perfect answer, but I think one of the safest bets, historically speaking, has been to buy a home.
Yep.
Gain the equity in it, or homes.
And a great idea for younger people is kind of house hack, right? Buy a house, live in it for a year, make it a rental property. Go buy another house. Start building some cash flow out of those properties. At some point, you're gonna see where maybe you've got 3 properties, and you've got rents coming in. You've got a cash flow positive situation, and when the time is right, hopefully those properties have all appreciated nicely. You can sell those, and you've got a nice little chunk of change to put away.
Nice. What financial benchmarks should someone look at before deciding they're ready to buy?
I would say having your assets saved up, like having an emergency fund saved up, like Dave Ramsey always talks about that, the emergency fund, having some money in the bank for your down payment, for your prepaids, for your closing costs, for your moving expenses. There are down payment assistance options that can help out clients that really need it. They're not always the best program for
Not
everybody
always.
because generally they're going to carry a little bit higher of an interest rate than a traditional, regular, conventional loan or FHA loan. Nothing's free. So if you're getting a down payment assistance program, you're usually going to be paying a little bit more cost to do that. But it gives people opportunities. You might be familiar with the Hometown Heroes program.
Of course.
So that's awesome product. That's for teachers, firefighters, medical professionals, people in the military, veterans, education. They can get up to 5% of the loan amount in down payment assistance funds, and literally that can cover all their down payment, prepaids, closing costs,
everything.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So lots of options out there, like for your traditional first-time home buyers.
Yeah, most of those programs are income driven. A lot of them are credit driven as well, but they're great programs when they fit for the right situation. Ultimately, though, if you can be disciplined enough to save consistently, like Sean said, having an emergency fund is hugely, hugely important. When you own a home, things are going to come up. Your AC is going to break. You're going to need a new roof. Things are going to happen. You've got to have money set aside. And paying really close attention to your credit profile. How you manage debt is extremely important. paying attention to making sure you're making your payments on time. And you should be really checking your credit at least once or twice a year to make sure things are moving in the right direction and there's no surprises, things popping up that maybe shouldn't be there.
And you can do that for free. You can do that like on Experian's website, Equifax website,
freecreditreport.com.
freecreditreport.com.
There's a lot of ways to stay in front of that.
Credit Karma is a good one. Now, by the way, those credit scoring modules aren't going to be your traditional mortgage credit score.
Right.
So,
but they'll give you a good
idea,
and a good track as far
Yes.
as where your scores are going.
So what are the biggest barriers first-time buyers are facing in Tampa Bay right now?
I mean, affordability. One thing that stresses me out a little bit is when I have clients that are coming to the table like with the amount of money that they basically have in their bank account.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot in reserves or the emergency fund. That's a little bit stressful for me, like let alone them. So like trying to figure out a way to give them that little bit of cushion.
Yeah.
If they have like a 401k that they have saved up, they can do a loan against a 401k to kind of give them a little cushion. Getting a gift from a family member is acceptable.
Yeah.
But I would say that's the most stressful for me when I see them having limited funds left over after closing.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And, I do see a lot of family members helping out these days. Many, many, many times with first-time home buyers, mom or dad, grandparents are helping with that initial down payment as a gift. And it's a great way to help, get you on that track of ownership, right? So if you've got family members that are willing to do that for you, it's phenomenal. And it's very, very helpful.
That's a great point. So like I have a couple clients right now that their parents are going to give them the 20% down.
That's huge.
But the house payment is more expensive than the buyer's one. I was like, well, what about instead of your parents putting the 20% down, we just have them put 3% down for you and pay off your auto loan or pay off your $10,000 of credit card debt
Right.
or pay off like your personal secured loan that you took out. So just trying to help make things more affordable is, I get a lot of value out of that myself. Like when you're putting them in a better financial situation than they were before they met you,
But you have to be disciplined because if you run all those credit cards back up, you're going to be in a hole.
Yeah.
That's the problem. A lot of people aren't very disciplined these days. But when you're disciplined and you manage debt well, a gift, down payment assistance programs can be extremely helpful.
I wouldn't say that you have to be like debt free to purchase a house.
No.
Or credit
Absolutely
card
not.
free to purchase a house.
No.
However, like I have clients, if they're coming to me and they got like $25,000, $30,000 of credit card debt, I'm like, you may want to pump the brakes a little bit, like before you buy. I'm a salesperson. The way I earn a living is by closing loans. However, I was like, you may want to focus on getting those paid down because they're probably paying 20, 30% interest on those before they go with a home purchase.
100%.
So,
Yes. What programs exist today that many renters don't even realize could help them buy a home?
Well, you hit on a lot of that with the down payment assistance programs, Hometown Heroes programs, things like that. Some of those programs do run out of money, right? So you got to kind of pay attention to what's going on there with that. The traditional down payment at Florida Housing Finance Corporation, that money typically does not run out, but there are many, many ways, right? I think Sean alluded to earlier, 3% down. If you're a first-time home buyer, you only need 3% down for a conventional loan. We're not talking about a tremendous amount of money. Once again, people get stuck that they need 20% down to buy a home. That's not the case. 3.5% down on an FHA loan. I'm doing a gift of equity purchase right now for somebody where they're buying a home from a family member and the family member's gifting them the equity in the home.
oh, that's awesome.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at different transactions. But that's why the best thing you could do is reach out to a local mortgage professional, myself or Sean, for example, and start the consultation process early, right? So we can see if there's any credit issues that pop up that we need to take care of because we can help you with that. We can start looking at the numbers, start talking about payment, start talking about how much money you're going to need and what programs that might be available for you. Sean also talked about rural housing. When you get into some of these rural areas, there's USDA financing. And you're thinking USDA, you're going, aren't those the guys that grade meat? Yeah, it's those guys, but they also have a lending program that's 100% financing, but it has to be designated as rural housing. We don't see a lot of that in Tampa proper, but you get out to Polk, Hernando, you might see some of those opportunities.
Like a Apollo Beach, Ruskin, probably.
A little bit.
Some.
Some.
wanted to point out another thing, like it's not as much of a seller's market now. So like during 2021, 2020, when the rates were really low, it was tough for buyers to get seller concessions to be paid towards their closing costs. It's nice relief now, like that they are able to negotiate that with sellers a lot of the time. I'm not saying all the time,
but
however,
a lot of the time,
a lot of the time they can. So
mm-hmm.
So you could put your 3% down and get the seller to pay all your prepaids and closing costs,
right? And maybe even buy your rate down a little bit for you.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we'll be right back with more from our guests as we keep this conversation burning on hot topics, live from Fabre Frameworks Studio. Fabre Frameworks, your go-to team for professional real estate photography that helps listings stand out, attract attention, and move faster. Learn more at FabreFrameworks.com. All right, it's time to turn up the heat. Welcome to the hot seat. Each panelist gets 2 minutes to tell our audience why realtors and buyers should connect with them. The spotlight and heat are all yours. Scott, you will start us off.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, in this profession, as realtors and lenders, you have a lot of choices, right? I've known Sean; his reputation is fantastic in the market. The biggest thing I could say is always try to work with a local professional. I've got a team of loan officers. I've got a team of support staff. I'm in a very unique position because I'm one of the senior vice presidents of sales at my company, but I also still originate. Gives me a little bit of leverage, to be honest with you. But with that being said, I think the key is working with somebody that you connect with, right? This is a business relationship. Can turn into more than that. I've got some very, very close friends now that are realtor partners that I've worked with over the years, and financial advisors that I've worked with over the years. At the end of the day, it's working with somebody that you can connect with on a personal level, somebody that you can trust, because trust is a big part of this. When we're talking about the financial impact of purchasing a home. And for you as a realtor or financial advisor, you want to make sure that the person you're working with is treating your clients the way you would want them to be treated. And that's extremely important. I know for me, integrity is a big part of what I do. I can hear from Sean, he's the same way. I want to make sure I'm putting people in the best situation possible for their financial needs, for the vision that they have for the future and wealth development. But also, I want to make sure that that person understands and is comfortable through the process. I have a support staff that helps me. I want to make sure my support staff is treating them the way I want them to be treated. All those things really matter. So for me, I think the most important thing is, having a strong relationship and having somebody that and you can trust that's going to give the right financial advice to your customers and is going to be available, right? And attentive. Communication. It's amazing to me. I've been in this business for decades. And to this day, the number one complaint I heard from realtors when I first got in the mortgage industry over 25 years ago was how lenders just don't communicate well.
Or their voicemail's full.
Or they don't respond to emails. The number one complaint over 2.5 decades later is that lenders don't communicate well. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. And at the end of the day, this is about relationships and communication. We have to communicate well together. My team is going to give you updates on a weekly basis. You're always going to know what's going on with the transition, the list side and the buy side, which is extremely important. We want to keep everybody in the game and engaged because problems arise. No loan is perfect. Things are going to come up. Yeah. And if we communicate really well together, we can deal with those things, but we got to deal with them quickly. Nobody likes last minute issues. I despise last minute issues popping up on a closing. So we try to nip it in the bud early and communicate clearly to make sure we're all on the same page.
And don't hide anything from us.
Yeah, and vice versa, right? I'm not going to bore you with the minutia of every detail of a loan, but I'm going to keep you in the loop.
Scott, tell the people how they can reach you.
I'm a simple phone call away. My cell phone number is area code 727-686-3346. I do a lot of social media content, so if you Google me, you'll find me all over the place. My email address is spendleton, PENDLETON, @EMM Loans. I'm easy to find.
Perfect. Sean, you're in the hot seat.
Sean Miller, Van Dyke Mortgage here. I've been in the business for 23 years, not quite as long as you.
I'm probably older than you, Sean.
I would say, communication is one of our best things. Experience is one of our best things. I mean, I'm 23 years in. I've closed thousands of transactions, and I still say, wow, that's the first time that's come up before.
Yeah, it's
wow,
crazy.
that's the first time that's come up before. Team, like having the local lender is super important, like you're talking about, because things do come up during the transaction, and having somebody like a team with the experience to help you navigate through, the different challenges. Because like you said, there isn't like a lot of cookie cutter transactions. Even your I get clients that make $400,000 or $500,000 a year, but you need to be able to have a lender that's going to analyze tax returns and do a good job at looking at. Like I took tax return training classes like 10 times over the years to learn how to look at the S corp tax returns, the 1065 corporate tax returns, and being able to just again navigate through any challenges with those, knowing the different products. I mean, now more than ever, I'm doing I shouldn't say more than ever. I'm doing a lot of non-QM loans, which are your portfolio loans. Like your traditional loan types are conventional FHA, VA, and from the market tanked like in 2006, and we used to have subprime loans back then. Now they're called non-QM loans. They're for like bank statement loan programs where you can use your bank statement deposits, asset-based loans, investor no income document loans. Having a lender that knows those different products and can offer the different products on top of the regular traditional conventional FHA, VA is super important as well too. I don't love those type of loans. I do like closing an extra 5-6 loans a month though.
Yeah.
That's one really great thing with Van Dyke Mortgage. Like we're a direct lender ourselves. However, we do have the ability to broker like different portfolio products if necessary. We do them in-house, but we can broker as well too. So
Perfect. How can the people reach you?
They can reach me 813-383-6066 is my cell phone. I've got a great team. I couldn't do it without my team. Processors, underwriters, closers, admin, marketing, underwriting management, great support systems like at our company, your company as well. So
Perfect. Gentlemen, handled the hot seat well. Let's jump right back to some questions.
Okay.
All right. What advice would you give someone who thinks their credit score disqualifies them from buying?
Well, I mean, they may or may not be right.
That's true, right? Yeah.
I mean, we have FHA loans that go down to a 500 credit score. Now, they do have to have 10% down.
Right.
Ideally, you want to have them above a 580 credit score, ideally. Well, ideally, I mean, I like them higher than that.
Yeah.
But,
780 is even better.
Yeah, correct. But, you don't need perfect credit.
No.
And I would just say, you had brought up in the previous session about starting the process early. If your lease is expiring in June, don't wait to start the process in May.
Yeah. Start now.
Yeah.
A month ago.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Start 3, 4, 5 months ahead of time because you might find things on your credit that you weren't aware of. You might have a medical collection that popped on there and dropped your score 100 points, and all you need to do is pay that off. So I would say, talk with a local mortgage professional, have them do what we can do soft credit inquiries on the borrowers now.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't affect their scores negatively. It gives them the exact same credit score as on a hard credit inquiry. That's been game changer. Like it eases people's minds. So does not affect their credit score. It does not affect their credit score on a soft inquiry. People, are you sure it's not going to affect my credit score? It doesn't. So doesn't hurt anything. Talk to a mortgage professional 5-6 months in advance. Get your ducks in a row. Here's how much I'm going to need down. Here's what I need to do with my credit. Here's what I need to pay off.
Yeah. Listen, if your goal is even to buy a house in the next year to 2 years, reach out to a local mortgage professional. Start looking at the numbers. At the end of the day, we often find things that are report incorrectly on credit reports. Happens all the time. We can help you fix that. We have the knowledge, and I'm sure, much like myself, Sean has somebody on his team that will really help you walk through that whole process. If I don't have time, I can help you with it as well. But I have team members that, I've got a young lady on my team, my loan partner. She's phenomenal at analyzing credit and going through it and working through the credit agency to see the things that we can do. If we pay down this card a little bit here, if we pay off this collection or dispute this collection and get rid of that, it could mean an extra 30, 40 points to your credit report. That's the knowledge level that we have. You've got to work with somebody that you trust locally, ideally, that can help you work through those situations. And, granted, if you're a conventional 10% down, you're going to get a much better rate if you've got a 740 credit score as opposed to a 680 credit score. But if it's an FHA loan, if you've got a 660 or a 780, the score is not going to really have any impact on the rate. The guy with the 660 credit score is going to get the same rate as the guy with the 760 credit score. So
yeah, so you don't need to necessarily wait till you have a 760
right.
credit score to buy.
Yeah, you don't have to have perfect credit to take advantage of what are typically very, very good interest rates on FHA and VA alike. VA as well. I'm a veteran myself. I love doing VA loans. It's always been kind of my niche and my specialty.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I have a VA loan. I believe in the product, and the rates on VA loans are very, very good right now, comparatively speaking. So
best program out there, I think.
100%. 100%. No mortgage insurance monthly. You get a great interest rate. You don't have to put any money down, but you can if you want to. I'm doing a loan for a guy right now. He's selling a house in California. He's going to use his VA entitlement. He's going to put $250,000 down, but the VA loan's still a better option for him because the rate's going to be that much better.
What are the biggest mistakes realtors make when advising renters about the buying process?
When advising them, I don't know the biggest mistake I see them like taking them out to look at houses before they're pre-approved.
That's a mistake.
Yeah. Maybe taking them out to see houses that they might be not qualified for or might not be within their quote unquote monthly budget of what they think they can afford. Because once they go look at a $500,000 house, there's no way they're going to buy a $350,000 house.
Yeah. I mean, for the realtors out there, the sooner they can get them in front of us and we can start putting those numbers together for them. Because once I've got them in the system, Sean, the same. Once we have them in our system, now it's plug and play, right? If you send me 3 or 4 properties, I can look at those properties. Because here's the thing. Let's say they are looking for that $500,000 range home. They could go find something that's $450,000 with no homestead exemption, which is going to mean they're going to start off with really high property taxes, as opposed to something that's $475,000, right? That has a homestead exemption. The more expensive home might have the smaller payment, right? Depending on where it's at, the homeowner's insurance could come in a little bit less. The property tax could be a little bit less. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, whether they're going to qualify for that property, right? So the moral of the story is simply this: get them in touch with your preferred lender. And if you don't have a preferred lender, call me, call Sean. We're happy to have a conversation with you. And let's get you in a situation where we can get these people pre-approved for you, not pre-qualified, pre-approved. We're going to look at their income documentation. We're going to look at their asset documentation. I can even take them through underwriting prior to even making an offer on a home to make sure that there's not going to be any surprises, because something's going to happen. I believe in this market, there's going to be a shift at some point. And Sean alluded to the fact that right now there's a lot of inventory, which means buyers have an advantage right now because they can negotiate. They can negotiate on sale price.
Finally.
They can absolutely. They can negotiate on seller concessions. Most of the contracts I see coming through right now have anywhere from 1% to 3% in seller concessions. If you don't need that money to help pay for your closing costs, I can do a permanent rate down buy down for you. If you're rate sensitive and you can't stomach a 6.5% interest rate, and that seller is willing to negotiate 3% in seller concession, I can use that money to buy the rate down. Maybe I can get you that 5.5% you're looking for, right? So it's all in the negotiation. So you make sure you're working with a realtor that's experienced. It's a full-time agent. They do this as a profession, right? It's not a hobby. Work with an agent that's a professional that can help you negotiate those transactions at the level that they can. But at some point, that's going to shift. If this conflict goes on, for example, in Iran, and we get a shift to safety, and we start buying up treasuries and rates start to drop, at some point, it's going to create a little bit of a feeding frenzy in the market, and those sellers are not going to negotiate if they have multiple offers. So I think now is kind of the perfect storm where rates are fair, reasonable. As a buyer, you can negotiate. I think now is a great time to buy. Absolutely. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. with all sincerity. I think now is a great time to buy a home.
You talk about the realtors partnering up with a lender early in the process. How does that change the client's overall experience?
I mean, it's a team effort. So like when I talk to a client, I ask them, hey, what do you want your monthly payment to be? Almost always the monthly payment on the house they're going to buy is less than what it ends up being.
Yeah.
Almost always. They say, oh, I only want to spend $2,500 a month. I was like, okay, well, then you may need to look like at a $260,000 priced home.
You're not going to like it.
Yeah.
You're not going to like that $260,000 priced home.
But I say, hey, by the way, like I had a client yesterday. I can pre-approve them up to a $600,000 purchase price. They're trying to stay around a $400,000 or $420,000 purchase price to keep their payments in the range they want to get. I was like, here, listen, the great news for you is you can qualify way higher than you're even comfortable buying. So that ball is in your court, so to speak. I was like, I'm going to tell the agent though, like, here's what their goals are. They want to keep their payments around $3,000 a month. They should probably stay then around like a $420,000 purchase price. However, they can qualify a lot higher than that. So it's a team effort. Like I do now, like more than ever, I'll have the buyer's agent on a joint text chain.
Yeah.
And we'll communicate in there. Hey, your monthly payments on this. Hey, I emailed out your pre-approval letter. Hey, I need these documents. So having like a team, like a local team, like I have like a homeowner's insurance that I recommend company.
Yep,
I have a title company that like I'll recommend because they're local and they give good service. And like for the most part, like I've always been a purchase money lender.
Mm-hmm.
We do refinances as well too, but like generally like the refinances, I'm more reactive on them because my past clients are calling me versus like out there marketing to get a boatload of refinances.
Yeah.
So like being on the purchase side of the transaction, there's so many things that you have to navigate. And like for agents wanting to refer us, we have to have delivered over and over and over and over again, which we've done.
Yeah.
We're not perfect, but very consistent. Like,
we're pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah.
At the end of the day, I think you've got to look at a lot of scenarios there and having that relationship that's strong and set early. Once I've got you in my system, or Sean and I have in your system, you're pre-approved. Now you can go out and start looking at houses. And I think being on a text chain together is an amazing option. So there's that back and forth communication, right? You send me an address and I can say, okay, here's what I can tell you usually within a few minutes. I can stick you in my system on that property. I can look up the property taxes. That's public record. I may have to estimate on the homeowner's insurance, but I'm sure Sean, so I've got a couple of agents. If I send them, I can get a quote in an hour, right? A quick quote. It may not be perfect, but it'll be pretty close because they don't.
You heard him say he looks up the property taxes.
Yeah, you have to look them up.
So he's double checking that.
Yeah, you look them up. It's not hard. Yeah. But I can give you usually a pretty close range of where your payment's going to be on that property. So you can go, all right, do we even want to go look at this house, right? Because I'm assuming you're married, Sean.
Yeah.
I've been married for a very long time. If you and your wife go look at a property that's $600,000 and you really want to buy a property that's $450,000 and your wife falls in love with the $600,000 house,
you're getting it.
You're buying the $600,000 house. So make sure before you go look at that property, it's a payment range that you're comfortable with, right? Because it's a waste of your time, the realtor's time, and it's a few minutes for us to kind of give you a quick, snapshot of what that payment's going to look like before you even go look at it.
And we're also going to tell the real estate agent, hey, by the way, they need a seller credit of $8,000, $10,000 for their closing costs.
We can back into
the online lenders aren't going to be as user friendly with all that.
Not even close.
How can realtors position themselves as trusted advisors instead of just transaction facilitators in the rent versus buy conversation?
I think the biggest thing that realtors, it's the same for us. It's don't be so involved or focus on the transaction. I think it's all about education, building trust, taking care of the people, right? I'm a firm believer, and I've got a really good friend of mine that's one of my top referring realtor partners. He's bald too, and we talk all the time. And he's from Dublin, Ireland. He's got that cool Irish accent, but he says all the time, when you take care of the people, the money follows. And that's really what this is about, right? Education, giving good information, being clear, concise, communicating, often. the money will take care of itself when you take care of the people.
Yeah, learning about different facets of the transaction. Take some classes on how homeowners insurance works.
Yeah.
Pick your brain of your homeowner insurance agent about like deductibles, how that affects their premiums. Talk with the title company about like, by the way, the seller of this property is in probate. How does that work? The buyer wants to close under an LLC. It's an investment property. How does that work? Talk with your lender, ask questions. Like we offer classes, to our agents. Like, take a mortgage 101 class. The Star, you guys have awesome training classes.
Yep.
Like go to these guys' training classes, because some of them you got great turnouts and some of them you don't. But like it's all like very, very valuable information. Learn how a 1031 exchange works on investment property. The more you know about different facets of the transaction, the more polished you're going to sound. And you also brought up a good point, full time. Like if you can plug in all cards in.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point. Star's a great, probably one of the best real estate associations in the country. I think we're top 2 in the state of Florida now, I believe, right? Size-wise.
Top 3.
Top 3.
Yep.
It's a phenomenal. I've been involved in different realtor associations. This is by far one of the best I've ever experienced. I deal with loan officers all around the country. I have loan officers and branch managers in many different markets. I never hear any of them talking about their realtor associations like we do here in the Tampa Bay area. And now we've got it all together, right? Now we have Star. It's one big conglomeration of just great people, great education opportunities. Take advantage of that. Star does a phenomenal job.
They're on fire, just like Quan's jacket.
That's right.
Thank you. Let's do some rapid fire questions. All right. Each one give me your, quick answers. One mistake renters make when evaluating buying.
I would say waiting too long to start the process, and trying to time it out exactly when their lease is going to end.
Yeah,
that can be very stressful because like transactions do fall apart from time to time.
Yeah.
A home inspection goes bad, an appraisal comes in low, and both parties can't come together to agree upon a new price. I had a seller die once during a transaction.
I've had that happen.
And the buyer had put in his notice with his apartment complex. By the way, it doesn't speed up the process.
Right.
If you have a seller that passed away. So like starting the process early and not cutting your lease off. I mean, I waited till when I closed on my house, I waited till the day I closed to tell my landlord that I was moving out.
Yeah.
To play it safe. I'm not saying to go to that extreme, but like at least get your home inspection done, appraisal done, loan approved.
Yeah.
Like
be ready.
Yeah.
Biggest, 2 for me. Number 1, assuming you need 20% down is huge. And then I think number 2 is trying to just time the market, right? And waiting. I'm going to keep waiting until rates are X. You can't control rates, right? I told somebody on Saturday last weekend, I had a conversation with a friend of mine that's in the mortgage industry. We happened to be together. And I said, based on what just happened in Iran, historically what happens in that situation is when there's a conflict, there's a flight to safety, and rates typically go down. But that didn't happen. It did. The market's acting, in my opinion, counterintuitive to anything I've ever seen historically. Right now, we have the craziest, most volatile market I've ever seen. So if you think you can time the market when it comes to interest rates, good luck. You're never going to happen.
Next one. This one, only you, Sean. 1, financial move renters should make today if they want to buy in 2 years.
Start saving money and manage their debt.
Scott, 1 myth about interest rates you wish would disappear.
That you can time the market. That you can wait until rates are X. When you're ready to buy a home, figure out what payment fits for you, what you're comfortable with, have a payment range, right? Then we can back into a home price, and when rates drop, you can refinance. You always have the ability to refinance.
Each of you, give me 1 piece of advice for realtors working with renter clients.
Get them to start the process early, I would say.
Yep.
Start the process early.
The earlier the better. The earlier the better.
Get them pre-approved early.
Perfect. I love it. A big thank you to Sean and Scott for sharing their insights today. If you're a realtor watching this, remember that the rent versus buy conversation is not just about numbers. It is about education, guidance, and helping clients understand the long-term impact of the decisions that they make today. And for the consumers listening, whether you are renting today or thinking about buying your first home, the most important step is getting informed. Talk with a trusted realtor and a lending professional like these gentlemen here, who can walk you through your options and help you determine what the right move is for your situation. Make sure you download, subscribe, share, and turn notifications so you never miss the heat. With more expert guests, real conversations, and practical strategies coming your way on Hot Topics, live from the Fabre Framework studio. Fabre Frameworks, specializing in professional real estate photography that helps listings stand out, attract buyers, and make a powerful first impression. Learn more at FabreFrameworks.com, the official studio home of Suncoast Tampa Living Podcast Network. This is your host signing off, and until next time, keep pushing boundaries, delivering value, and standing out like the star you are.